The digestive system. The digestive system is continually at work, yet people seldom appreciate the complex tasks it performs in a choreographed biological symphony. Consider what happens when you eat an apple. Of course, you enjoy the apple's taste as you chew it, but in the hours that follow, unless something goes amiss and you get a stomach ache, you don't notice that your digestive system is working. You may be taking a walk or studying or sleeping, having forgotten all about the apple, but your stomach and intestines are busy digesting it and absorbing its vitamins and other nutrients. By the time any waste material is excreted, the body has appropriated all it can use from the apple. Whether you pay attention or not, the organs of the digestive system perform their specific functions, allowing you to use the food you eat to keep you going. We examine the structure and function of these organs and explore the mechanics and chemistry of the digestive process. The function of the digestive system is to break down the foods eaten, release their nutrients, and absorb those nutrients into the body. Although the small intestine is the workhorse of the system, where the majority of digestion occurs, and where most of the released nutrients are absorbed into the blood or lymph, each of the digestive system organs makes a vital contribution to this process. The structures of the digestive system. The mouth. The cheeks, tongue, and palate frame the mouth, which is also called the oral cavity. At the entrance to the mouth are the lips. Their outer covering is skin, which transitions to a mucous membrane in the mouth proper. Lips are very vascular with a thin layer of keratin, hence the reason they are red. The pocket-like part of the mouth that is framed on the inside by the gums and teeth, and on the outside by the cheeks and lips, is called the oral vestibule. Moving further into the mouth, the opening between the oral cavity and throat, or the oropharynx, is called the fauces, like the kitchen faucet. The main open area of the mouth, or oral cavity proper, runs from the gums and teeth to the fauces. When you are chewing, you do not find it difficult to breathe at the same time. The next time you have food in your mouth, notice how the arched shape of the roof of your mouth allows you to handle both digestion and respiration at the same time. This arch is called the palate. The anterior region of the palate serves as a wall, or septum, between the oral and nasal cavities, as well as a rigid shelf against which the tongue can push food. It is created by the maxillary and palatine bones of the skull, and given its bony structure, is known as the hard palate. If you run your tongue along the roof of your mouth, you'll notice that the hard palate ends in the posterior oral cavity, and the tissue becomes fleshier. This part of the palate, known as the soft palate, is composed mainly of skeletal muscle. You can therefore manipulate subconsciously the soft palate, for instance, to yawn, swallow, or sing. A fleshy bead of tissue called the uvula drops down from the center of the posterior edge of the soft palate. Although some have suggested that the uvula is a vestigial organ, it serves an important purpose. When you swallow, the soft palate and the uvula move upward, helping to keep foods and liquids from entering the nasal cavity. Unfortunately, it can also contribute to the sound produced by snoring. Two muscular folds extend downward from the soft palate on either side of the uvula toward the front. The Palatoglossal Arch lies next to the base of the tongue. Behind it, the palatopharyngeal arch forms the superior and lateral margins of the fauces. Between these two arches are the palatine tonsils, clusters of lymphoid tissue that protect the pharynx. The lingual tonsils are located at the base of the tongue. Perhaps you have heard it said that the tongue is the strongest muscle in the body. It is quite strong proportionate to its size. Although it is difficult to quantify the relative strength of different muscles, it remains indisputable that the tongue is a workhorse facilitating indigestion, mechanical digestion, chemical digestion, using lingual lipase, sensation of taste, texture, and temperature of food, swallowing, and vocalization. The tongue is attached to the mandible, the styloid processes of the temporal bones, and the hyoid bone. The hyoid is unique in that it only distantly, indirectly, articulates with other bones. The tongue is positioned over the floor of the oral cavity. A medial septum extends the entire length of the tongue, dividing it into symmetrical halves. The top and sides of the tongue are studded with papillae, extensions of lamina propria of the mucosa, which are covered in stratified squamous epithelium. Salivary glands. Many salivary glands are housed within the mucous membranes of the mouth and tongue. These minor exocrine glands are constantly secreting saliva, either directly into the oral cavity or indirectly through ducts, even while you sleep. In fact, an average of 1 to 1.5 liters of saliva is secreted each day. Usually, just enough saliva is present to moisten the mouth and teeth. Secretion increases when you eat because saliva is essential to moisten food and initiate the chemical breakdown of carbohydrates. Small amounts of saliva are also secreted by the glands in the lips. In addition, the buccal glands in the cheeks, palatal glands in the palate, and lingual glands in the tongue help ensure that all areas of the mouth are supplied with adequate saliva. The pharynx. The pharynx, or the throat, is involved in both digestion and respiration. It receives food and air from the mouth and air from the nasal cavities. When food enters the pharynx, involuntarily, muscle contractions close off the air passageways. A short tube of skeletal muscle lined with a mucous membrane, the pharynx runs from the posterior oral and nasal cavities to the opening of the esophagus and larynx. It has 3 subdivisions. The most superior, the nasopharynx, is involved only in breathing and speech. The other 2 subdivisions, the oropharynx and the laryngopharynx, are used for both breathing and digestion. The oropharynx begins inferior to the nasopharynx and is continuous below the laryngopharynx. The inferior border of the laryngopharynx connects to the esophagus, whereas the anterior portion connects to the larynx, allowing air to flow into the bronchial tree. Esophagus. The esophagus is a muscular tube that connects the pharynx to the stomach. It is approximately 10 inches or 25 centimeters in length, located posterior to the trachea, and remains in a collapsed form when not engaged in swallowing. The esophagus runs a mainly straight route through the mediastinum to the thorax, To enter the abdomen, the esophagus penetrates the diaphragm through an opening called the esophageal hiatus.